3.
Hey Fourth Mod students, we are in your next seminar talking all about the interview process, how to prepare, and what to expect. So tips for success for nailing this interview and doing the absolute best that you can. So interview preparations. First of all, and biggest, we want to dress for success. We want to dress as if we already have the position. And we want to dress as professionally as we can. Ladies, we can wear a professional skirt, slacks, or a dress. Men, you can wear slacks, a nice button-up, and a tie. You can bring with you a portfolio. In that portfolio, if you'd like, you can bring another copy of your resume. Most employers will already have that, but that will look like you are very prepared. Also in this portfolio, you could put your references, any certifications, or anything that you feel would boost yourself up more to show this employer that you are the qualified candidate to be offered this position. Little details, they mean a lot. First and foremost, your voicemail, your telephone etiquette. When they call, after they have read your resume, they're going to call you and either do a screening or offer to bring you in for an interview. And we want to act like an entrepreneur. We want to sell ourselves on this. And then lastly, what we'll talk about is transportation for the interview. Number one, the biggest thing is voicemail. You want to use a generic message. Hi, this is Olivia. I can't come to the phone right now. Please leave me a message with your name, phone number, and details, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. If an employer leaves you a voicemail, call them back no more than 24 hours. Myself, I know many previous bosses and others, they have a 24-hour rule of getting back. And since you are looking for a job, you want to get back to this employer as soon as possible so you can get that interview slot. You also want to make sure that your message is a personal advertisement of yourself so they know that they are contacting the right person to offer this interview to. The deal breakers though, and these are big ones, guys. The first thing that employers and myself, when I'm making some placement calls to you all, is that the mailbox is not set up for messages. So if your mailbox on your phone is not set up, I highly suggest doing that today. Secondly, the biggest deal breaker is this mailbox is full. An employer is not going to try to hunt you down or send you an email or show up at your doorstep. They're going to move your resume to the side and they're going to move on in their candidate search. So again, if you don't have a voicemail set up, I recommend doing that. And if your mailbox is constantly full, delete those messages. Telephone etiquette. Screening calls can be very hazardous to your career. So how you speak when that employer is calling you can be very key. It gives the employer room to wonder why. You want to insulate yourself against children, roommates, or any family that might be around. I know many of you do have children, so if they would call you, you can simply say, can you give me one moment while I step outside away from the kids? They're going to graciously accept that offer and they will wait until you can step into a quiet space to discuss further. Also the tone of your voice. It can make a negative impression on the interview. I know it can be nerve-wracking. I still get nervous at interviews. Take a pause, take a deep breath, and in this point you're selling yourself. And talking about ourselves is one of the easiest things we can do. So take that deep breath and focus on that. And you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So when we're speaking on the phone to the employer, we want to make sure we're not saying, what's up? What can I do for you? How your words are said and what words you choose is going to make a key difference. You want to make sure they're professional, we're not using any slang, and we definitely watch any foul language. We don't want to answer the phone for an unknown number that could be an employer the way we would maybe answer a phone when one of our best friends calls. So you want to act like an entrepreneur. What this means is you want to know about the employer, the person contacting you. You want to do your research. So you can look at their About Us page and see what their goals are, their values, any problems the company is facing. And you can easily do this by searching them on Google and just doing a quick read through, maybe writing out, jotting some notes about the company. You can look them up also on LinkedIn. Many employers are on LinkedIn, and I do recommend if you are not yet, Miss JJ and I, we can assist you in setting you up one. It is free, and it is a great tool while while looking for jobs and selling yourself professionally. You don't want to be lazy. Again, research, read, and practice your interview skills as you are applying for jobs. One of the things of practicing your interview skills, you can easily set up a mock interview with Miss JJ and I, and we will sit down as if it is an actual interview, and then we will give you feedback on what we think you should say differently if you were in front of an employer, and any positives that we saw as well. And then you want to use all resources available to you, like Google, the job posting, and even us here in Student Services. Transportation. This is crucial. You want to make sure that you have reliable transportation on the day of your interview. If you do not have a car, make sure you make those arrangements in advance. Know the driving directions to the facility. Something I do and I highly recommend is the day before your interview. Start from home, drive to where your interview is going to be. If it's at one of the big hospitals downtown, park and walk to the floor, because those hospitals can be a maze and they can be difficult to navigate. This way you'll know the drive time and you'll know exactly where you're going, so you don't have added anxiety of possibly being late or exactly at the time your interview is starting. With that being said, you want to arrive a minimum of 15 minutes early to the interview. Showing up on time for an interview, that is going to be considered late to an employer, and that's not going to look good on your behalf. Remember, this interview is selling yourself to be the best candidate for the job. And do not take anybody with you. No children, no spouses, no significant others, no parents. Let them stay at home or maybe in the car, or if they do come, they can wait outside, but they do not need to physically come with you inside the building. So we want to dress professionally. I touched on this at the beginning. Men, a suit, tie, shoes polished. Women, suit or pantsuit, a blouse, a dress with a jacket. I know that professional interview clothes can be an expense. If you do not have those and you have interviews coming up, or when you are finishing extern and graduating, we do have a program, Dress for Success. You can see Miss JJ or I. We will give you an application to fill out and we will send it on your behalf. You will receive a phone call from them and you will be fitted and given professional interview clothes, free, no charge, no cost, no expectations from you at all. Just something that Dress for Success does to prepare you for the workforce. So what to bring and be prepared? A notepad and a pen. Again, I said extra resumes. You can bring your cover letter as well. Any professional references, any recommendations that you have from former employers or colleagues. You can bring any certificates that you have earned. And if where you're applying has an application, you can have that pre-filled out and ready to hand into them when you are at your interview. At the interview, you want to know their name and how to pronounce it. If you're unsure, you can always call ahead and you can ask at the company or the facility where you'll be interviewing and who you will be interviewing with. You want to make sure that you send a warm greeting. You want to smile and give a nice firm handshake. You want to make good eye contact during your interview, not just at your introduction. You want to be aware of your body language. Don't slouch in your chair. Don't have your arms crossed. Speak clearly and control your hands. I speak with my hands. You can see that. Watch that throughout your interview and make sure you tone that back some. And then you also want to have knowledge about the company, the industry, and the position that you are applying for so that you can speak about it as they are asking you questions throughout the interview. And then take time to think about the answers. When an interviewer asks you a question, you don't have to automatically reply. Take a breath in a few seconds to compose yourself and then go ahead and answer. At the interview, some things to not do. Do not chew gum during your interview. If you would like some fresh breath before, feel free to chew that gum, but make sure you spit it out before you walk into that building. Do not smoke before going into the interview. That smell from the cigarette will linger and you don't want to bring that into the interview. And then monopolizing the conversation. Allow the interviewer to lead this conversation. They are learning all about you and you will, during your interview, have time to ask questions. And then do not, of your first questions you ask about how much you're going to make and the benefits involved. interview questions that you should expect. I'm only going to touch on a few, but you can easily pull these up on the PowerPoint slide attached, and we also can give you questions as well that we have found in research. But the employer is going to ask you to tell them about yourself. What are you looking for in a job and an employer? And maybe how could you benefit their company if they hired you? Have you ever had your life to live over? What would you change? What would you do different? They may ask you about your strengths and your weaknesses and how you can work better on those weaknesses. And then it's going to be your turn. You want to be prepared to ask the interviewer questions about the company. Don't show up with no questions prepared. If you do have questions, I know in an interview there can be a lot of anxiety and nerves. It's okay to write those down on a piece of paper, bring them in, and when it comes time to ask questions, just graciously say, I'm going to pull my questions out of my portfolio that I have previously written down for you. So, one of the big questions you could ask is, why is this position available? You'll be able to see the culture and the climate of the facility. You can ask the interviewer why they have chosen to work where they work as long as they have. If they've been there for 15 to 20 years, that's a big interest peak. There's a reason that they've been there for so long. You could ask what a typical day is like in the position that you are applying for, so you can see what you would be doing each day when you come into work. And you can also ask, is there potential for advancement, for promotion? Can I move up in this company? There are some illegal questions that employers should not ask you, however, sometimes they will. You do not have to answer them, however. Some of them include, how old are you? Are you married? Do you have any children? The last two, are you married and do you have any children, is typically geared towards women because they want to know that you can be there whenever and wherever they need you. So if you work in a medical office and they need you to stay till 6, but you're supposed to be off at 5, they're going to ask if you have children and see, well, do they have to get home to their kids or could they stay and help out when they're being called to do so? How tall are you? How much do you weigh? And any social organizations you belong to. This is not pertinent information on the job itself, so this is not things that you have to share through the interview and things that should not be asked for you. Then the closing of the interview, when all is said and done, you want to show appreciation. You want to thank them for their time. They do have a busy schedule and they're taking the time out to bring you in to possibly join in on their team. You want to restate your interests and strengths. Remind them of your qualifications and that you are qualified for this job position. Reiterate your interest in the position and ask what type of follow-up should you expect and how long. So you can simply ask, and how long will it be until you make a decision or until the next process of the interview will continue. And then offer your references if they have not yet been requested to them. After the interview, a huge thing, send them a thank you note via email to thank them for their time and expressing interest in their company more. You can get their email address by getting a business card from them and asking for that business card. Sometimes the front desk will have them, but send that follow-up thank you note the same day. And then follow-up. If the follow-up time previously stated of how long they would be in contact with you passes and you have not heard anything, you are more than welcome to call or email them politely to inquire about the status of this position and the next steps that they have decided or are deciding to take. And a polite inquiry, it lets the employer know that you are still interested and you are still wanting the open position. And then attached that you can read on the attached PowerPoint in the email are some common nonverbal mistakes that are made throughout the interview process. So like I said at the beginning, if you have interviews coming up or as you graduate, you can schedule a mock interview with Ms. JJ or myself, and we will give you all the feedback that we can to best prepare you to sit down as you continue on this journey in whatever career you have chosen. And then the attachments, we have the PowerPoint and then a little survey quiz for you to complete, and we will see you guys soon.